And the war was over in 45. I left the farm and went with a company that was owned by Sears. It made paint for Sears. That was in 1945. Ben Franklin Paint and Varnish Company. Okay, when I got that job, Catherine and I decided to get married in August. So August of 45, August the 29th of 45, we got married. And I stayed with Sears. They had what they call a profit sharing plan. And we contributed to that. And then you would contribute some, and then they would put some in it. And but you had to stay in it 5 years before you could take it out, before you profit from it. Well, and I was getting a little tired of that, and about a year or two, in about 47 or 48, there was another guy that worked at the same place I did, Ben Franklin Paint and Varnish, and I like building. I had already built 2 houses. The first house that we lived in, after we were married, I built it. And then we sold that, moved into another house, rental, while I built another one. I bought a lot and built another house. And I kind of like building. So this other guy also did. So we got together, and in 1950, when we were 5 years with Sears, we took our profit sharing out, bought a lot, and started building a house on it full time. Okay? That was in 1950. And we built this house in our time, and he and I worked at it. It took us, I think, about a year and a half to do it. But anyway, when we finished the house, I got to thinking, well, now what do I want to do? At that time, both girls were born, and I had to decide on what to do, whether to stay up there and try to work with the other guy in the building. But I got to thinking, I need to use the experience, the training that I had in electronics. I needed to maybe get a job at that. So in the meantime, I moved back with the family to Florence, South Carolina. All right, that was about 53. And I got a job in a S.H. Crest company, department store. I just got that job because I was waiting for something else to happen. So we took a trip up to Binghamton, New York, where Catherine's sister Gladys and brother-in-law Bill Perk was living. I went up there and I was talking with him, and I said, I'm not really happy. I'm doing a job that I don't really care about, and I'm looking for something better. He said, why don't you think about IBM? And I said, well, yeah, sounds like a good place. Well, they had headquarters there in outside of Binghamton, Endicott, New York. So he took me over there, and I talked with them, and they said, yeah, they needed somebody in Savannah, Georgia. He said, but Savannah is covered by Columbia, South Carolina. He said, you go to Columbia and talk with a fellow by the name of Amos. He was the service manager there. So we came back and we went to Columbia, and he hired me for Savannah. That was in January of '55. Okay. But the school in Endicott didn't come up until February. So he said, you stay around here in Columbia for January, and the school opens in February in Endicott. You go up there for 4 weeks. I said, okay. So we rented a house there in Columbia, and Lois was old enough to go to first grade, but Carol wasn't. That was in '55. So we stayed there for January. All right, in February, when school opened, we went to the farm. And Catherine and the girls stayed at the farm while I went to school in Endicott. It was only about 50 miles away. All right, we were there for 4 weeks, and Lois went to the school, elementary school there near the farm. When I finished, that was the time equipment school was in Endicott. When I finished that, they said, we want you to go to Poughkeepsie, New York. That's a typewriter school. Okay, so they put me on the president of IBM was on the plane, and I flew from Endicott to Poughkeepsie, sitting next to the president of IBM. Anyway, I was there for another 4 weeks. So when that was over with, I was trained for time equipment and what they call electric typewriter division, ET division and TE division. So then I went back to the farm, picked up the family, went to Savannah because that's where my job was, in Savannah, into a hotel. And we bought we didn't buy, we rented a house. I didn't know anything about Savannah, but we rented a house in a location, and I found out later, you know, there's a lot of swampland around Savannah, and the river right there on the ocean. Well, we didn't know it, but mosquitoes were terrible. So we only stayed there for about maybe a year or so, and then I started looking around for a house to buy. So we bought a house, and we were there. It was very near school, and at that time, both girls were going to school, elementary school, and the school was across from the park. There was a park. We bought the house on one side. The school was on the other side. So they had to walk right through the park to the school. And of course, Catherine walked with them to school. She was there one day, and the principal asked her, "Do you want a job?" And Catherine said, "Well, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah." So what do you got in mind? He said, "I need a secretary." So she took the job as secretary of the Juliet Low Elementary School. You know, now Juliet Low is the lady that started the Girl Scouts in Savannah. And that's why they named the school after her, Juliet Low Elementary School. So anyway, we were there, that was in '55. So I worked there with IBM in the time equipment division until about '58. All right. IBM decided to sell the time equipment division to a company called Simplex Time Recorders. That was in '58, okay? They put me they kept me in there because I was also trained for ET, what they call the ET division, electric typewriter. They came out with what they call electronic typewriter. And you could fill in information, it would type it automatically on the paper, and you just have to fill in what you wanted, the amounts and things. So they came out with that, and they said, "I want you to go to another school, Lexington, Kentucky." I think it was about a two-week class to study on that electronic computer, electronic typewriter. Okay, I got back I was there. I went back to Savannah. And see, at that time, IBM didn't sell their computers. They rented. All of their computers was rented. Okay, and they did the same thing with the electric typewriters. So they put a few around, but it didn't go too well on that. And one day the boss came to me and said, would you like to get back in time equipment? And I said, yes, I really would. I like that better than typewriters. He said, would you like to go to Louisville, Kentucky? I said, I don't know anything about Louisville, Kentucky. He said, why don't you take a trip up there and talk with the manager of Simplex Time. They need a service manager up there. Okay, I'll go talk with him. I went up, talked with the guy, and I decided to go because there was two other servicemen there besides. He said he wanted somebody to take over the service department on time equipment. So I went there. I went there in about, let's see, we came back here in '63. So I went there, it was about '61. Because we were only there 2 years. Then the manager came to me and said, that was the area manager, and said, would you like to go back to Atlanta? He said, they have a larger office there, and we need a service manager there in Atlanta. And I said, well, I've never been to Atlanta, but I lived in Savannah for 7 years. And I'll go and take a look at it. Well, they came here. There was 3 other service techs here, but apparently they didn't think either one of them was service manager or material. So they wanted me to come here and take over the service department. Okay, so we moved back to Atlanta. That was in. We came here in '63 because I was here. They wanted me here immediately, and the girls, we had just bought a house, had a house built in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, I was living here. Catherine and the girls were up in Louisville. We put the house on the market.
Just the kids being funny.
Anyway.